So your alkaline substance is going to penetrate through your cuticle into your cortex, and it's going to break your disulfide bond, right? Now that hair is, it's the process is called reduction, by the way. Take a note of that. It's called reduction when it breaks down that bond. Now I can manipulate that hair. Now that that bond is broken, I can put that hair on this perm rod now, right? With the broken bond. Now once I reform the bond through what process, we talked about this on yesterday, what's going to reform the bond for me? Anybody? Neutralizer, right? An oxidizing agent, neutralizer. That's going to reform the bond. And now this tool is going to determine what that wave pattern looks like, right? So that's permanent wave. Now, if I'm relaxing, I'm not rodding it, I'm smoothing it once I put my product on, right? I'm smoothing it. And through the process of smoothing while the bonds are broken, I'm changing it from a curl to a straight path. So we have 3 types of side bonds. Let me reiterate it for you. You have 3 types of side bonds. You have hydrogen bonds, which are weak physical bonds that are broken down with heat or water, right? Shampooing. You have salt bonds, which are also physical bonds that are broken by change in pH and reformed by normalizing pH. And then you have your strong chemical bonds, which are your disulfide bonds that can only be broken through chemical processes, right? Alkaline substances that are able to penetrate into the cuticle, into the cortex, and break the bond, all right? Now, we're talking about the physical actions and chemical actions of permanent waving, right? We said that our physical is our rodding, shampooing, rinsing. That's physical. That's a physical action. Our chemical is our permanent wave solution because it's chemically altering our hair. Our chemical is our neutralizer because it's chemically reforming that bond. Everybody get that? And so all of the services has their own aspect of physical and chemical properties. Again, with perming, it's rodding. With relaxing, it's combing and smoothing. With reformation curl, right, it's a little bit of both. This is important. The difference between Thio and hydroxide relaxers, right? First of all, those are the 2 types of relaxers that we have. Thio, active ingredient, ammonium thioglycolate, and then hydroxide relaxer, active ingredient, sodium hydroxide. There are differences between these 2 relaxers, right? There are differences between these 2 relaxers. Number 1, and the first thing you must understand about hydroxide and Thio relaxers is that they are not compatible, right? If a hair is treated with either one, it cannot be treated with the other. You will have a violent reaction. Your Thio relaxers are normally around 10.0 in pH, and so those bonds can be reformed. They're neutralized when you're doing a Thio relaxer. Now the difference between a Thio and a hydroxide relaxer is that a hydroxide relaxer has a pH so high as 13.5 if I'm not mistaken. And those bonds can never be reformed. Instead, through the process of shampooing and rinsing, they are then converted into what's called lanthionine bonds. Thio relaxers can be neutralized and the bonds can be reformed. Hydroxide relaxers, pH is too high, bonds can never be reformed. They are then converted into what's called lanthionine bonds. All right? So that's the key piece to remember about the difference between Thio and hydroxide relaxers. Reformation curls and relaxers are similar in that in a reformation curl, the hair is first straightened and then put on the rod to develop the curl. And so the same smoothing process that you do with a relaxer, you do with a reformation curl before you actually rod the hair. That's how they're similar, right? It has the smoothing property. It has to straighten the hair before you put it on the rod and then create your curl. How is my curl or how's my wave or my curl determined? Right? How's the size? The size of my wave and curl. The size of my wave and curl is determined by what? The size of my tool, right? So we have all types of perm rods, all sizes, right? The size of this tool is going to determine the size of my curl or my wave. That's how that works, right? Now, there's 4 perm rod shapes, right? These are perm rods. There's 4 shapes. Who knows what they are? Concave.
Regular.
Straight.
Circular. It's the one that bends. I'm trying to think of the name.
You just said it. Bender.
Bender. Okay.
All right. We have bender rods. We have straight rods. We have concave rods. And you have circular rods that form a circle and connect at the end, right? Right? What's the difference between these rods? As you can see, I showed you different ones. They come in a variety of sizes and shapes. What do I need to understand about the difference between a concave rod and a straight rod? All right? So a concave rod, you see the one here? It dips in the center, right? It dips in the center. This one is straight across. All the same size, completely across the rod. Concave, straight. Concave, straight. Tight in the middle, straight all the way across, right? The difference is this. With a concave rod, I'm going to get a tighter curl in the center to make the wave appear more natural, right? Concave rods is going to roll tighter in the center, so my curl is going to be tighter in the center and wider towards the edges, right? On a straight rod, my curl is one uniform length all the way around. Everybody get that? That's the difference between a concave and a straight rod. Now, remember, the type of rod that I'm going to use is going to be determined by me analyzing the hair, right? Obviously, these are small rods. What type of hair am I going to use them on? Short hair. Short hair. Remember, length of hair is a determining factor on the rod that I choose. Remember we talked about when you have long hair, there's challenges with long hair. For example, if I'm rodding using a croconole technique, which is the hair around itself, that longer hair winds up and gets thicker as you get towards the scalp, right? Whereas if I have a bender rod, which is longer, I can give me a spiral curl and have a uniform curl throughout the strand. Y'all see that? So the look, the outcome that you're desiring is gonna determine what tool you use for the set that you're gonna do. What's my 3 end paper techniques? And why do I use end papers? What are my 3 end paper techniques? Who can tell me?
I know why you use it, I can't remember.
You know why I use it, you just don't remember the technique?
I remember.
Okay. Double end, double flat. If I'm not double, I'm just one single end, and I got one more. What are you looking at? What are you reading?
Oh, the book.
Book end. Book end. Book end, single end, double end. Those are my 3 end paper techniques. Now, you said you know why I use end papers. Tell me again then, why do I use end papers?
So that way, like, when it comes to long hair, you're able to control the strand of hair, like,
That sounds good, but there's a specific answer. There is something that I am looking to avoid. That's why I am using end papers. I am looking to avoid what on the end of my curl. Who knows? Come on. Say again. Fish hooks. There we go. Bingo. And a fish hook is when the end of your curl curls in the opposite direction of the rest of your curl. You use end papers to avoid fish hooks, right? Now, let's identify our single end, double end, book end. I'm going to give you an example for those who don't know. All right? Single end, and also, when you're rodding, we get into base sections in a second, your base should not be bigger than your tool. So for those of you who not experienced in rodding, Use your tool to kind of measure off your base because this base section is very important. Clean base gets you a clean rod. Alright? Unclean base, unclean rod. Right? Single end, double end, book end. Now, single end is simply using one end paper, right, at the end to rod. Single end is simply using one. Double end will be using two, one on the opposite side, making sure that my end papers extend beyond the end of my hair because that's how I'm going to avoid the fissure. And then my personal favorite is going to definitely be the book end. Now, the book end, my favorite, and who can tell me before we get into it what type of base placement I just used?
90.
Was it 90?
Oh, it was 40. It was 90. It was 90 degrees.
On base.
On base.
It was 45 degrees beyond perpendicular. We'll get a little bit more into the base control here in a second. All right? But that is our end paper techniques. Our end papers are used to prevent fish hooks. You have single end or single flat. You have double end or double flat. And you have book end. That's your 3 end paper techniques. All right? You will not be graded on your end paper technique. You are welcome to use whichever technique you like when you go to take your state exam. All right? All right. What are subsections also known as? Subsections are also known as, and I just called it, base sections. Subsections are also known as base sections. The base is important. The base should be a little bit smaller than your actual tool. If your base is as wide as your tool, once you begin to rod the hair, it's going to come off the side. It's going to bunch up. You're not going to get a clean, good, uniform curve. All right? Now, base control, however, base control is very important. It's important how it's determined, and it's important how it affects your curve. Now, on my end, you just told me I used on-base placement. You're absolutely right. What are my other 2 base placements? Who can tell me? That's it. On base, off base, half base, or half off base, whichever you want to call it. Now, how is that base placement determined? What do I need to do to determine which one of my base placements I'm going to use? If I want to use on base as opposed to off base, what am I going to change about the process? The angle. I'm going to change the angle at which I rod, right? You just saw me rod that and get on base placement, right? If I wanted to get half off base placement, I would change my angle to 90 degrees straight out from the growth zone. Right? Now, what is that going to do for my actual curve and the end result of my curve? Who can tell me that?
Tighten the curve.
Say again?
Tighten the curve.
No. Base placement, remember this, you used to know this, base placement dictates the amount of volume you will have in your curve. Right? Base placement is going to determine the amount of volume that you will have in your curve. On base placement is going to give you the most amount of volume. Off base placement is going to give you the least amount of volume. All right, that's what we need to understand about our base placement. Spiral crokinole, again, determined by a couple of factors. Length of the hair, desired look, directional growth pattern. All those things we got to consider when we're considering how we want to style this hair, right? And so the final style that I'm desiring is going to determine the tool that I use and the tool techniques and patterns, right? All right. What is a water wrap? What is a lotion wrap? You have a water wrap, you have a lotion wrap, right? When we're talking about wrapping, we're talking about perm rodding and reformation curling because we're rodding. We don't rod on relaxers, right? A water wrap simply means that because we rod the hair in a moist condition, right? our procedure tells us that we make sure that the hair is in a damp condition when we're rodding, right? So water wrap simply means that I'm making sure that I'm keeping this hair moist with water as I'm rodding, right? And as it begins to dry slowly during the process, I'm continuing to saturate the hair and keep it moist with water. That's a water wrap, right? Now we have a lotion wrap. A lotion wrap means that I've already shampooed, the hair is yes damp, but I'm actually adding my waving lotion to a working panel. I'm putting my waving lotion on as I rod, right? That's a lotion wrap. You know the difference. Water wrap, simply water keeping the hair moist as I'm rodding the hair. Lotion wrap, I'm actually adding the permanent waving lotion to a working panel as I rod the hair. For basic wrapping techniques, you got the basic wrapping technique. You have the curvature technique, which conforms to the curves of the person's head. You have brick lay, which is, think about bricks on a house, how they interchange. And then you have what's called piggyback. And piggyback is done on long hair types when you use two rods on one base, right?